And welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is Gabe Hernandez, and today we have a review of Elvira meets H.P. Lovecraft #1 from Dynamite Comics. And in this issue, the Mistress of the Night is approached by the ghost of Lovecraft to stop a crazy cult from freeing the famous monster, Cthulhu. Say that 5 times fast. Great. And in this issue, we're going to get into the particulars, but we're also going to talk about what we liked and dislike, and hopefully you're going to have a good time. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated, and make sure to stay tuned to the end for our final rating and score. So let's talk about the credits before we get into the meat of the issue. This is written by longtime Elvira writer for Dynamite Comics, David Avalone. Art by Cuber Ball. Colors by Walter Pereira. Letters by Taylor Esposito. And cover art by Dave Acosta. And in prior arcs or prior miniseries, Dave has also done the interiors for the Elvira books as well. So he knows what he's doing, and so far the comic looks great inside and out, which is a good thing. So let's talk about the story. And well, before we do that, let's recap where we are with Elvira in the Dynamite universe of miniseries and arcs. Elvira is usually approached by a ghost or some kind of supernatural being of one sort or another, most famously Vincent Price, to deal with all kinds of magical, mystical, supernatural threats to our reality and our universe. She's done everything from chase after Fellini's magic remote control to hop among the alternate dimensions where movies and television shows are real, to face down the multiverse of Draculas from all across the filmverse, if you will, and everything in between. So she's done it all and then some, and that's what she said. So, which is a better response, she would say. But there we are. So she has a habit of being approached by supernatural beings to help with otherworldly threats to our plane of existence. And this first issue, which kicks off a new arc, is no different. But it's a different approach, if you will, for the first time. So in this issue, Elvira's kicking back and relaxing after saving the Earth more times than she should be called to, or should have should be held responsible for. And in her dream, she's approached by H.P. Lovecraft. And in this scenario, Lovecraft is being called forth by the Elder Gods, which are different than the Great Old Ones. The Elder Gods are sort of the good guys in a contextual, metatextual sort of way, and she's been asked to stop some individual or a group of individuals from finding the one last remaining true copy of the Necronomicon. And because if they do, they're going to free Cthulhu from his ancient prison and essentially bring back the rule of the great old ones to Earth and enslave humanity and fire and destruction and ash and all the terrible things you can think of. And nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that. So off they go. And so she takes some convincing, because Mr. Lovecraft has a, shall we say, checkered past, which I'll talk about in a minute. But eventually she agrees that the stakes are high enough that if she has to get involved, she's going to do her part. They go to a local antiquities dealer who Elvira is friends with, who claims to have a copy of the one last true version of the Necronomicon. But before they can do anything with it, a group of cloaked, hooded, robed figures carrying swords break in, steal the book from them, and take off. But before they do, the ghost of Lovecraft manages to confirm that the Necronomicon that they stole is a fake. And so that means they have to go off and look for more clues elsewhere to find the one true copy and save it from being stolen. And then that's where we leave off. But before we get to the end of the issue, or before we leave off with the issue, we find out that the person or persons in charge of this robed, hooded cult who are trying to steal the Necronomicon and free Cthulhu is led by none other than the dreaded great old one. I'm going to say this right, Nyarlathotep, which is also a very common character in Lovecraft lore. And I got to get my hats off to Cuber Ball. It looks fantastic. I've seen several depictions of Nyarlathotep in my time, and this is one of the creepier, weirder, more surreal body horror versions, and it looks fantastic for what you would expect based upon the source material and the description. So let's talk about just let's get the the elephant out of the room and talk about an interesting fact about the series and just maybe not so interesting fact about Lovecraft himself. The guy is a pretty much well established racist, a very terrible racist. And you say, okay, so are they going to be banging on the racist drum for this entire comic? It is brought up. It is sort of a plot point because the mission that Lovecraft is being sent on by the Elder Gods is a form of a redemption arc. It's his path to basically make right what he made wrong while he was alive. Now, being a racist doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be prevalent throughout the entire story. There were a couple jokes cracked, a couple side comments made, a couple of chastising criticisms levied by Elvira at Lovecraft, but it doesn't take up the whole book. So it's not like you're going to get a racism lecture for the entire time. But it is there, it is brought up, it is a plot point, but it's a plot point that makes sense. So if you're wondering about whether or not they're going to just kind of uh, brush past Lovecraft's I would say past misdeeds. Uh, David Avalone does not. He does not brush past it, and he uses it, I think, effectively for the plot that he's trying to tell. So, right, wrong, or indifferent. There we go. Okay, so what do we like about Elvira meets H.P. Lovecraft? Number one, if you like Elvira, you get that here. Great personality, great physical depiction of the character and the real life person, and the story makes sense for the types of stories she's typically engaged with at Dynamite. I wish all of their sort of like celebrity adaptations were as good as the Elvira miniseries have consistently been. And Avalone does a great job. He knocks it out of the park. And I wish, I'm talking about Kiss and let's see, Alice Cooper and some of the other stories that they do based upon real life celebrities. I wish they were all this good consistently. And this is still consistently good. If you like Lovecraft, his racism and personal foibles aside, his writing is still the foundation of so much of what we understand about horror in literature and films and everything else that has come since. If you at least appreciate the art, if not the artist, he's presented well here. He's presented honestly here, and that's a good thing. And so putting those two together, both from the horror genre or horror realm, and then putting them on an adventure that is makes sense for both characters, I think is a perfect fit. And again, the depiction of Nyarlathotep, well, hopefully I'm saying that right, looks impressive. I was very surprised how good it looked. Okay, so what didn't we like about the issue? Uh, David Avalone typically has like a snappy banter and repartee between whoever Elvira is partnered with, whether it's typically Vincent Price or any of the other characters. This was a little bit more of a somber issue. Not to say that there weren't jokes, and there are definitely jokes, and the underlying theme of this whole story, of course, is a bit of a comedy, but it felt a little subdued, a little sedate. I think that has partly to do with understanding that H.P. Lovecraft is being brought in, but as a form of redemption arc to make good on his past behavior in real life, and so there was a little bit of a somberness to the tone. It wasn't glum, but it wasn't quite as bright. It wasn't quite as poppy. Their interactions didn't quite snap as hard as Elvira's interactions with her partners usually do. Like for Vincent Price's example, and that's a high bar, so that's understandable. But that's where it is. So you didn't quite get that as much of that snappy poppy tone, which we've come to respect and love. Quick word about the art. What do we think? Cuber Bale knocks it out of the park. It's Bale or Ball. I apologize if I'm not sure which it is. Knocks it out of the park. Elvira looks great. Lovecraft looks great. It looks like him. Again, the Nyarlathotep depiction is impressive. It was fantastic. Um, the scenes, the lines, the colors, everything works. So visually speaking, this is a grade A comic. So final thoughts. What do we think about Elvira meets H.P. Lovecraft number one? I think this is a worthy next step in the series of arcs for Elvira, teaming up to deal with an assortment of supernatural threats to our world. Uh, Avalone balances that line with Lovecraft, understanding that he's got a history that he has the good and the bad. So the art and the artist, he's bringing them both together in a way that makes sense. And you especially could appreciate the explanation he gives for the difference between the elder gods and the great old ones, which I think not everybody quite understands, to be fair. And so he does a good job of bringing that to light. And given a clear explanation of how that works. So that underscores Avaloni's appreciation for the source material as well, which is a plus. So therefore, we're going to give Elvira 8 meets H.P. Lovecraft #1 a very solid 8.5 out of 10. So we hope you enjoyed this review. But before you leave, please like, share, comment, subscribe to Comical Opinions for more reviews and analysis every week. You have a great day.